I think I laughed out loud when we got into the room for the first time. I think I said something like, I didn't know that being in a band could be this easy.
Shock Narcotic, like where does that name come from?
I think we can take each 50%
Okay,
ownership.
one person gets shocked, the other gets narcotic.
No, I mean, it's 100% what it is. Having Phil wear one of our shirts on stage when they're performing, seeing that brought like a little tear to my eye. I'm definitely the kind of person where writing and playing music, it's not an option to not do it. If I didn't do it, I would probably go insane. Definitely going to be another Shock record. Definitely not going to take another 6 years.
He is the guitarist of a grind supergroup from Detroit, combining members and ex-members of Dillinger Escape Plan, Pig Destroyer, and more. Jeff Tuttle, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
I'm
Appreciate
so
yeah, I appreciate the offer to come on. And yeah, let's get into it.
yeah, I'm so excited to have you on, hear more about this project because I've heard your name obviously through like talking about Dillinger and everything like that, but now with this new project, Shock Narcotic, you guys just put out a new album, My Flesh is Afraid, but I Am Not. Just tell me about like the process of making this, what went into it, anything like that.
Um, well, right off the bat, 6 years went into making this record, which
Okay.
is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Definitely was not the intention, but after after the first record came out and we started working on the second one, we were kind of just getting into the COVID lockdown. Um, so that kind of put the brakes on a few things because for a while, I think a lot of us were in this headspace, just like wondering if live music was even going to be a thing anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so as much as as much as you like to tell yourself, I'm gonna make music for myself first and foremost. If nobody else hears it, that's fine. Um, it was a little bit stifling, the idea that this record might come out and kind of fall on deaf ears, So um it wasn't so it, it definitely wasn't a conscious choice to just like not do anything with it. It became more of s something to help get through that time, and really because it was the opposite stance that we took for the first record. The first record was written, well, the band formed, the album was written and recorded in such a quick amount of time, which was great. I had never really done it that way, and I'm glad that it happened. But for the second record, my plan was always, I want to take a little bit more time with this one and um, just see what boundaries could be pushed,
Yeah.
um, what musical direction things can go in. Um, but then, of course, like I said, 6 years go by and you're still like re-recording guitars that you started working on like half a decade ago, which is so it got to a point where it was, are we going to do something with this or are we not? And of course, the obvious choice was we are because we
Yeah.
are all incredibly proud of this record. Um, it's definitely the most ambitious project that I've ever taken on. Yeah, and I don't think we could be happier with the result.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned like being so proud of this project and everything, but also just with the amount of time it took to like you said put out and complete this record. Was there part of it that like fi on the fifth year of doing the same guitar part, you're kind of like it's like getting a bit stale, or you're like I just want to be done with this. Like to what effect was it like? okay, we feel good, this is a finished product, versus like I just want to stop playing the same riff over and again, over and over again.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think it was a bit of the opposite. It was me just buying different effects pedals, different gear, and just hearing things in a different context. And um, maybe having the idea like, well, I'm going to get this pedal to use for this specific part, and then liking it so much, we're like, well, now I want to put this like all over the record. So let's go back in and like re-record some parts with this. So it was a lot of that
So there was
kind
a
of,
lot of like changes and tweaking
yeah,
throughout
but it
the
was good.
sessions.
It was
Got
a
it.
good, it was a good creative flow because it was, I mean, it's fun, it's fun to write and record music.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it can get like very obsessive, and you can you can poke and prod at it for your entire life if given the opportunity. I think a lot of
Yeah.
musicians would. And the fact that we were not working under any kind of deadline, that was like the kiss of death. You give me a deadline, I am gonna meet it. I a lot of times I feel like I do work better under a time constraint, because it forces you to make choices, and you know, you it there's no wiggle room. You gotta get it done and get it out. Without without the deadline, creatively, I think it's a bit more freeing because you do have the opportunity to try things and take your time, and experiment a bit more, but it can be like at the expense of your mental health. Because yeah, like you're saying, like how many times can you re-record this? And the answer is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sure you've put to the test through this process, and
Yeah.
then like comparing that with, like you said, the first album, which came pretty quickly after the formation. Just take me into the actual formation of this band and like how you got this insane lineup together.
I got to give the credit to Sean, our singer. He's the common thread between all of us. Um, the initial lineup was Zach Gibson on drums. So Sean was friends with Zach and Don. Sean and I go way back. And we had always talked about doing some kind of music project together. And for one reason or another, it just kind of never came to fruition. Um, maybe because I don't know, we just didn't have like a fully realized idea of what we would want it to be. Like we had some idea, but maybe the idea was either just too vague or too ambitious at times. For this one, he was like, I got these guys. I think we would all get together and work well in a room. And we all kind of like I've wanted to do a band like this for a long time. I've played in like rock and definitely heavy bands, and Dillinger obviously is its own beast, but at the end of the day, like Dillinger wasn't mine. It wasn't something that I helped create or anything.
Hmm.
So from an artistic perspective, it wasn't fulfilling to me in that regard. Um, so having a band like Shock that was my own creation, um, something that I always wanted to do, and I always wanted to work with Sean. Don is insane as a bass player. Zach and of course Adam are insane drummers. Um, so yeah, it just really fell into place. And honestly, I think I laughed out loud when we got into the room for the first time and just banged out some songs.
Yeah.
Because I was used to, being younger, you get in a room and you go in, you sweat your balls off for 10 hours and you come out, maybe you've got one or two riffs that are worth keeping. And
Yeah.
this one, we went in there and just kind of played and it gelled and there was really not a whole lot of back and forth. It was like, here's the songs, let's play them. Everybody came prepared. And that's not how I was used to doing things. And I laughed because I think I said something like, I didn't know that being in a band could be this easy.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, like I feel like there is a common factor of like you've all been parts of bands before, successful bands. Like I feel that like there is a common thread that like at some point, at some level of music, like it just makes it easier to work with people and like you kind of know what you're doing, you get better results, it seems like. So I'm glad you feel a bit more like artistic ownership of this band and you're being fulfilled with it that way. In terms of that like kind of artistic ownership, was it you, Sean, who came up with the name Shock Narcotic? Like, where does that name come from?
We, I think we can take each 50%
Okay.
ownership. Um,
One person gets shocked, the other gets narcotic.
no, I mean, it's 100% what it is. Um,
Okay.
when we were trying to come up with band names. Sean threw out Shock Corridor, which is the name of it's a movie from like the 60s or 70s ish, which is cool. I love that movie, but one of my old bands had a song called Shock Corridor, so I'm like,
Mm,
no, that's kind of like iffy, even though it's an obscure reference to a movie from and the song from an obscure band that
yeah.
maybe a handful of people have heard, but still, I'm like, we can do better than that. And I was just like, I don't know why. I was like, I want to try to maybe use the word narcotic in there. I don't know why. And we both were just kind of like, shock narcotic, that works. And
Yeah.
so
It rolls off the tongue. It's
that
easy.
was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And so that like other song, I'm guessing it sounds like it was like its own thing, or was that also a reference to the same movie?
It was a reference to the same
Oh,
movie.
okay. All right. All right.
It's a good movie if you're interested. I don't know if you're a cinemaphile at all.
Yeah, yeah, but I've been trying to get better at like going back to older things because like I feel like there's just so much new stuff that I'm interested in. But I'm yeah, I'm big into movies. I love going. Like this summer I've gotten back into like actually going to theaters for like new
In here.
stuff and so yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I am a big movie buff, so I'll make a note of that one and check it out. Are you a music artist looking to get your songs on Spotify, Apple Music, and basically every other streaming platform? Then you should check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution service. It's what I use to get all my music out across platforms, and I find it really helpful. You can manage your songs, lyrics, credits, and even manage releases across artists under one account. I don't think I would have gotten started as early as I did with music if it weren't for DistroKid. So if you want to get started, I'll put their pricing on the screen here. And yes, that does say the cheapest plan is at $2 a month. I know some of you spend more than that every day on your coffees. Like this is to get your music heard by the world. But we're getting off track. DistroKid has so many additional features like pre-save pages, getting your music onto platforms like Instagram and TikTok where people can put your music on their posts. If you use my link in the description, you will get 7% off any of these plans, making it even cheaper to get your career started, and so much more. So again, check out my link in the description for 7% off any plan. And now let's get back to the episode. I saw that you're playing a show like in about a month or so with the Pantera and Amon Amarth tour. Just what are you looking forward to that show? What do you think this live performance is going to be like? Anything like that?
I can tell you exactly what they're going to be like because they actually already happened.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, no, we had our record release show a couple weeks ago, and we were supposed to play four shows on that run. Unfortunately, two of them got cut
Right.
because Wild had to attend Ozzy Osbourne's funeral. What are you gonna do? You know? But the shows were amazing, you know. I grew up listening to Pantera, you know. I was a little 10-year-old kid just like rocking out the Cowboys from Hell. Um, so cut to like 35 years later, sharing a stage with them. I mean, yeah, that's quite literally for me like the stuff that I would dream about, you know, being
Yeah.
being just even being like associated at all with a band like Pantera with this, you know, and Phil. Um, Having Phil wear one of our shirts on stage when they're performing, I mean, that's just like seeing that brought like a little tear to my eye.
hmm Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, I don't think I've mentioned it on this podcast before, so like rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. That was insanely unexpected. I remember my reaction to it and so like
Unexpected, but also, I mean, dude led a hard life.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, it's, you know, it's the same with like Keith Richards or somebody, you know, they defy like all medical logic, you know, like the stuff that they've done, the drugs that they've done, by all accounts, you know, they should have been dead a long time.
It's yeah, it's like it's we're
It's
just glad they got this much out of it and
yeah.
live that long.
So yeah,
Um,
you know, obviously he had such a huge personality and a huge presence that he wasn't gonna let anything like take him down young, you
yeah,
know, he's going to be in it for the long haul. What I think is crazy is how soon after their final show that he passed. You know,
yeah,
it was almost like he was waiting to do that one final show and then just be like, you know what? I've lived my life. I've
yeah,
done everything that I wanted to do. I got to go out there one more time and kick some ass and let's do
yeah,
this.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and so just like with so I'm sorry, I must have gotten that wrong in my notes. Was the because there I saw one with like it coming up in September. Is that one of the ones that was cut for from the tour
I don't think
or
we have
just a
any shows in
mistake?
September.
Okay.
To
Okay,
my
just a
knowledge.
mistake. All right. Yeah, that's my bad.
I wonder what that would, yeah, I wonder what, if you find out what that is, I would love to know.
Yeah, yeah, I can send it over to Liz who put us in touch for this podcast and like try to clear that up. Sorry about that.
You know, well, actually, no, I'm wondering if they because they canceled one of the shows and then rescheduled one of the other shows. So I'm
Oh,
wondering if
okay.
they just took that lineup and attributed it to
Got it. But
the
but so
makeup
you won't be
show.
on the reschedule one.
Uh, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
And um, partly because yeah, it would be a long drive to go out
Yeah.
there for one show, and then two, King Parrot is already going to be on you
Yeah.
know, if I'm not mistaken, they're doing a majority of the rest of the run, so they're already going to be out there. Um, so
Awesome.
I
Shout out
think
to
that,
King Parrot. I had Maddie from King Parrot on this
oh
podcast a
yeah,
while back.
nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, they're coming through Detroit here pretty soon,
Awesome.
and I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then just like beyond this, if there aren't any other like shows scheduled or anything with the release of this new album, and I by no means want to like blow past it because it's still relatively new. But like, what do you see as kind of the future of Shock Narcotic? Is it going to be like you said, a lot of albums that take time and you're like fine tuning for years to put out? Just like how do you see this band
You
happening in
know,
the
well,
future?
with you know, the great thing about having somebody like Adam Jarvis in your band is you've got Adam Jarvis playing drums for you. You know,
Yeah,
like Pig Destroyer, another one of my favorite bands of all time. So when he agreed to play drums on this record,
yeah,
it was just like, holy shit. like that, Um, I couldn't be happier. But on the flip side, dude is constantly on tour with any number of his thousands of bands that he's in, and he lives in
Yeah.
Baltimore, so that
Just
complicates
impressive
things.
with like the time management and everything.
Yeah, I mean he flew in from Europe. We had 2 days of rehearsal with him, played the Shock shows, and then he flew immediately back to Europe to play with Nailbomb, and then he's going to Australia with Pig Destroyer, and then I think he's going back to Europe. Like, you know,
Crazy.
no
Yeah.
no rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
But we don't have any no immediate plans aside from I I'm definitely the kind of person where like writing and playing music, um it's not an option to not do it, you know.
Hmm.
If I didn't do it, I would probably go insane. Um it's 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 um it's just part of who I am at this point. I think probably a lot of other musicians have the same thing that I do, where like I just constantly have beats and melodies just like going through my head at all times. It's like a little background soundtrack happening at all times. I'm like, you know, to the point where I'm like, sometimes I just want it to stop, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but that's yeah, so that's just how it is for me. So definitely going to be another Shock record. Definitely not going to take another 6 years. For one, because that's a ridiculous amount of time. Um, for a while, I was joking and saying that this record was our Chinese democracy, which is actually funny
It's
'cause now at this point, I don't even know like if that's a relevant um, comparison, like if people would even get that reference anymore.
I think yeah, no, it's funny you say that because it's very very different from like the from like any kind of grind or heavier like music stuff. But I've been watching How I Met Your Mother, which is like a I guess already at this point like a slightly older show, and they in just a recent episode I watched like mention Chinese democracy and like everything like that. And so it's still like a fresh enough reference for me, then I get it. So I'm sure
Oh,
other
cool.
people out there will.
Yeah. But yeah, so 6 years is too long, but also I think the takeaway was like I learned so much while working on this record, like things that I definitely want to expand on, like some of the
Hmm.
different tones and different approaches to the writing and recording and performing of the songs, but then also a lot of stuff that I'm not going to do, like it just there was because there was a lot of spinning of the wheels, um, which contributed to that long length of time. So, um, I feel like I feel like the next record would not take nearly as long, but be
Yeah,
equally, if not more kick-ass.
yeah, and I mean with like all the travel you mentioned with like Adam's crazy travel schedule, I'm wondering how do you go about balancing either you or other members like uh Shock Narcotic with any other bands or projects you're involved in and like get everyone involved, whether it's like a time that you want to record, like you said, 2 days of rehearsal, like how is it just like getting everyone on schedule to sit down and work on Shock stuff?
Well, um, you know, writing and recording music is, I mean, and it's been this way for a while, but it's not where the way that it used to be, where
Yeah.
you don't have to physically go out of your home to a studio like a 9 to 5 job and to get it done. I I recorded all my guitars at home. Don recorded his bass at home. Sean did his like scratch vocals at home, but then once everything was done and finalized, went into the studio for a couple days, and then Adam recorded his drums down at Phil's studio in New Orleans. So it was very piecemeal,
Hmm.
which makes things definitely easier.
Easier. Yeah.
Yeah, more it's more accommodating to people's schedule. But then we're also, we're getting back into that territory of not really having a timeline or a deadline to work with, um, which, contributed to that time span. But I working with Shock, that was the first time that I attempted to record my own guitars and actually have them be the finished product.
Okay.
Any time before, it was either I'm going into the studio and laying down the tracks for the first time outside of a practice space, or I was recording demos and then re-recording them in the studio, which a lot of times for me, and I know that other people kind of will feel this way, um, when you record when you record a demo and then you go into re-record for the actual album, sometimes you can be like, well, I actually like the way the demo sounds because I've
Yeah.
heard it 1,000 times and it doesn't sound like that anymore. It sounds weird to me now. Um, so doing it this way also kind of gets you over that obstacle, because your demo ultimately does become the finished product. So um, I like having that kind of consistency as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, I mean, I know you gotta go in a second here, so I want to make sure you get on time. But thank you so much for coming on. And just as like a quick final question, if you got the chance to collaborate with any music artist, musician, band, whatever, either yourself or as Shock Narcotic, who would you want to collaborate with?
Oof, geez, man. Um,
And you can toss a bunch of names out there. Like, it doesn't
well,
have to just be one.
my number one go-to is always gonna be like Mike Patton.
Hmm.
Um, Faith No More was my gateway into heavy music. Um, and to this day, those albums inspire me. And Mike Patton, just as an individual, I mean, his output speaks for itself. He's probably touched on every single genre that could ever exist. Um, so doing something with him would be great. I got the chance to perform on stage with him with Dillinger
Hmm.
um, in San Francisco. And I mean, that was like some bucket list shit for me right there. But to actually work on a project with him, I mean, yeah, that would be the dream.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, thank you again, Jeff. I enjoyed this conversation, and I wish we could talk about this album some more, but I know I know you gotta go. If you ever want to come back on, again for more Shock stuff, talk about like Dillinger stuff, anything, I'd love to have you back on. But yeah, in the meantime, go listen to My Flesh is Afraid, but I Am Not, and check out Shock Narcotic in general. And yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.